Foster children are at an increased risk of abuse in a foster home for a variety of reasons. Foster parent training, respite care, and team support can prevent this.
Now we shift to another difficult subject. We see headlines about foster children being abused or neglected by their own foster parents. Could you tell us how that can happen?
Well, it's very unfortunate when this happens, and it's demoralizing to other foster parents who read of abuse in foster care. There is no one simple answer on why this happens. Foster children are at heightened risk of abuse in a foster home due to a variety of reasons. You might recall in an earlier section of this course that we talked about the risk factors related to maltreatment. The list included the child component that can increase the risk of abuse. You may want to reread that handout on abuse factors. Number 1. Foster children can have emotional and behavioral problems which are extremely difficult for the foster parents to manage. These children may not respond to typical parenting approaches. When this happens, the foster parents can become frustrated and highly stressed. This is why continual training is so important, as well as using the support of the team of helpers available to the foster family and the foster child. Number 2. As sad as this might sound, foster children may actually invite reenactment of their past abusive treatment. A child may actually seek to be spanked or hit. The foster parents need to know how to respond to this type of provocative behavior. Number 3. Some foster children may be unused to parents telling them how to behave. A parent who actually cares about providing rules and structures is very foreign to the child. They may, as a result, get into a pattern of defiance, which can spiral into a battle of wills. Number 4. There are other reasons children may be at increased risk of abuse while in foster care. Cultural differences may be confusing, or there may be inappropriate expectations on the part of the child and foster family. Number 5. Rarely the foster parents simply shouldn't have been chosen to be foster parents. Some rare foster families themselves are at high risk for abusing or neglecting a child. They were approved to be foster parents but should not have been. Number 6. Finally, on some occasions, the foster parents may have been matched with a child who they are not suited for. Some foster parents might do well with an infant or young child, but they don't function well with teenagers. Some foster parents might do just fine with a child who is fairly untroubled and well behaved, but they are beyond their depth with a child who is seriously troubled.
Those 6 points are very real. Yet it's hard for me to accept the idea that the abuse could continue after a child has been placed in a foster home for their protection. We can only assume the foster parent didn't have that intention. Betsy, what would be the best prevention?
I feel it is critical for the foster parents to work with their team. A parent needs to have the ability to talk out problems with other team members. Some individuals might be reluctant to acknowledge or admit that they feel overwhelmed by their foster child. Maybe they feel that they are failing in some way. We want all foster parents to know that that is not the case. It's therefore essential to let others know that you feel increasingly frustrated or exhausted or beyond your depth with your child. Equally important is for parents to take advantage of the training opportunities provided by the agency and others. Thirdly, parents need respite time. That is time alone to have a break and relax. Clearly, if problems move dangerously toward abuse, parents need to remove themselves from the situation before it reaches abuse.
As we wrap up this session, would you like to summarize what we have covered?
We have covered a number of topics, from understanding and recognition of the different types of abuse and neglect. In addition, we covered when to report suspected abuse and when to ask for and get a medical exam related to abuse. We reviewed the caregiver's roles and responsibilities and mandated reporting. Finally, we talked about abuse within the foster home and how it can occur. None of this is easy, but we need potential foster parents to come away informed and knowledgeable on the subject of abuse. I would like to say sometimes placements just don't work out, and it isn't a failure unless it becomes abusive.
Betsy, thank you. This is a difficult subject for all of us. We have an exercise for the potential foster parents to do. I'd like you to rank the following behaviors shown by children or adolescents in foster care from highest to lowest in terms of how disturbing or exhausting they might be for foster parents to deal with.
Foster parents need to honestly consider what child behaviors they would feel they can cope with and what behaviors they cannot.
A 10-year-old boy misses the toilet and urinates on the bathroom floor on an almost daily basis.
Rank this behavior. He's 10 years old. This is somewhat unacceptable.
A 14-year-old girl questions why she can't wear a top that exposes her midriff.
I think that would be somewhat acceptable.
A 6-year-old boy is a buzzsaw of activity and has to be told repeatedly to clean his room because, in his words, he forgot.
That's somewhat acceptable, I think.
A 15-year-old boy has no interests outside the family and is content to hang out by his foster mother all day and night. He asks meaningless, repetitious questions and seems clingy.
That's, I think, somewhat unacceptable.
An 11-year-old girl argues about everything with everyone.
That's somewhat unacceptable. Maybe totally unacceptable,
In the
probably.
exercise, there's no right or wrong response. The point is for you to understand that there are child behaviors some foster parents would find acceptable, but others would find unacceptable. Ideally, on the route to becoming foster parents, you and your partner will need to think about and discuss what behaviors you could handle in your home and what behaviors you could not.
Child abuse casts a shadow the length of a lifetime. Hubert Ward, British footballer and cricketer.
All right. We have come to the end of this third and final section of this course on understanding child abuse. As you know, we started in part 1 with some facts and figures on child maltreatment and with some discussion on the 3 major types: abuse, neglect, and sexual abuse, along with the role of the team members. In part 2, we covered the past and present factors and risks that relate to child maltreatment. Our aim was to help you understand and empathize with birth parents whose children come into your foster home. Lastly, in this third part, the focus was on how to recognize certain signs and indicators of abuse and when and how to report your suspicions or observations to the authorities. Thank you, Betsy, for being here. This has been very educational.
It's been my pleasure. I'm so excited when caring individuals begin their journey to help foster children. I feel privileged to pass on information to new prospective foster parents. I hope we've provided a balanced introduction to the tough subject of child abuse. We certainly don't want to scare parents away with our talk about child maltreatment or needlessly alarm anyone about the challenges of raising children who've been abused earlier in life. At the same time, information can hopefully help our new foster parents raise and care for children safely in their homes.
Thanks to all of you for taking this course at Foster Parent College. We wish all of you the best of luck in your efforts to help foster children.
Okay, we're going to do the questionnaire together and see how the answers turn out. Click on an answer to get immediate feedback. After you finish, you can print a copy of the questions and answers. You will not receive a test score. So here we go. Physical abuse typically includes accidental and non-accidental physical injury to the child, any non-accidental physical injury to the child, only some non-accidental physical injuries to the child, or failure to keep the child safe. So we're talking about physical abuse. A physical abuse would be Non-accidental injury, non-accidental would be there's injury on purpose, and so it is identifiable, so that should be correct. Child maltreatment that involves exposing a child to a drug environment refers to the use of over-the-counter drugs by pregnant women. No. The inability of parents to care for a child due to drug abuse. The use of prescription drugs by parents in the home. Well, why would that be a problem? None of the above. Child maltreatment that involves exposing a child to drug environment refers to the inability of parents to care for a child due to drug abuse. I think that would be correct, and it is. Which of the following is the more common cause of death in physical abused children? Failure to thrive, abdominal injuries, burns, or broken bones? The most common one, I thought that it said abdominal injuries because they're not easily seen by bruises, and then there's a bowel blockage, and then they die from the bowel blockage. Let's go with B, and that's correct. It is important for prospective foster caregivers to understand child maltreatment so they can talk with birth parents about it. Yes, I think that's true. Oops. Anyone considering becoming a foster caregiver needs to have an understanding of child maltreatment, since the great majority of children coming in foster care today have experienced some form of it. So that's false. Drug abuse has been identified as the single most important factor in the physical abuse of children. That's false, because we find out there are drug users that don't necessarily abuse their children. Once in foster care, children's risk of being abused is reduced. That's false, because actually the children may really even be provocative to irritate foster parents to the place, because they want to have these bizarre reactions reactions from parenting to themselves. Bruises resulting from child abuse are usually on bony parts of the body. No. Are usually on soft parts of the body. I think that's yes. Are almost impossible to distinguish from accidental bruises. Do not need to be reported. B. That's correct. Child abuse and neglect are defined by local laws, state and local laws, federal and state laws, federal, state, and local laws. I think it says federal and state laws. Yeah, so the local doesn't determine it. Federal and state laws make the determination of what really is defined. What percent of parents who abused were maltreated as children? Oh, I can't remember this. What percent maltreated? I'd say maybe 40 or maybe higher. Nope. According to research, up to 70% abusive parents were maltreated. So 70%. Okay. The continuum of parenting means the quality of parenting can range from very good to very bad. That's probably a good answer. The backgrounds of people who become foster parents are diverse. No. The care system provides a range of caregiving services. Well, I think it's A. Yeah. Bruises on the upper lip of a 3-month-old body are very likely to be accidental. That's false. Oh, I didn't read the question right. Bruises on the upper lip of the 3-month baby are very unlikely to be accidental. It's true, because a 3-month-old baby cannot bruise himself with their bottle. It means it's been shoved in their mouth. Which characteristic is common among parents who maltreat their children? Being unlikely to pay attention to their children's good behavior, being unlikely to pay attention to their child's bad behavior, being unlikely to show their child affection, all the above. I think all the above. No? Okay. Maltreating parents often fail to reward their child's good behavior, yet have reactions to any bad behavior from the child. So what the point they're making here, and I didn't get that, hopefully you did, was being unlikely to pay attention to their child's good behavior. So they're not being positive with their children. The most frequent cause of failure to thrive in babies is a feeding error, a health problem, underfeeding, lack of interest in eating. Underfeeding, health, feeding there, a lack of interest in feeding, probably D. Nope,